I just saw an article a couple of days ago that suggested, didn't suggest, I mean, it laid out the numbers that for the first time since the Affordable Care Act was passed, from that point until now, and you would know the day and the month and year anyway of the passage of it. I'm sorry, I don't at the top of my head. But from then until just very recently, the number of uninsured Americans had been steadily declining. And in the last certain period of time, I'm guessing you know what it is, they've actually increased. What's going on?
Well, a lot of people certainly were brought into coverage because of the Affordable Care Act, which was signed into law in 2010. But there's still 30 million of us who are uninsured. And unfortunately, a lot of people are just simply not signing up. And in many cases, they fear that their premiums are going to be too high. The Trump administration certainly has been, I think, scaring people away and telling people that the exchanges are collapsing. It's not true. But there are a variety of reasons, and not enough people are insured, which is just a shame.
Yeah. So, Wendell, what do we do about this? And tell us about Tarbell.
Tarbell is a new journalism nonprofit that my team and I are launching. We've been laying the groundwork now for several months. And today we're launching a crowdfunding campaign. We want to be entirely reader-funded. And the thing that we're going to be focusing on is the people who really have the power in this country, who pull the strings of our politicians in Washington and all over the country. The problem is that most people think that the president or members of Congress, or state legislators, or governors are the powerful, but they're not. It is the big corporations and the special interests that contribute so much money to control how elections turn out and how policy is made. I saw it happen up close and personal during the Affordable Care Act debate, and I used to be a part of it when I was in my old job in the insurance industry.
Right. So the uninsured rate is going up as a consequence of the Trump administration making it harder for people to figure out how to sign up. Is that the bottom line?
That's the bottom line. It is more challenging. They've cut the funding for the advertising, for the navigators who help people sign up. So a lot of people just simply are not aware. They need to be reminded that coverage is available. So in many cases, the administration is sabotaging the Affordable Care Act to try to make a prophecy come true that just wouldn't otherwise be if it weren't for the actions of the administration. We want to shine a light on that with Tarbell, and it's tarbell.org, by the way, because we're a nonprofit and all donations are tax deductible. But people need to know the power behind decisions that are made. And Congress, of course, is debating tax reform. And the powers that be, the people with money, are the ones who are pushing this forward. And the rich will be undoubtedly more benefited if this goes forward as proposed than regular folks. But they're being sold on something that just simply isn't going to be very meaningful for most of us.
We're talking to Wendell Potter. Tarbell.org is the website. Wendell, how do you see this thing playing out? Obviously the Republicans are of the opinion that health care is a privilege, not a right, and that it's not the job of government to be providing it. This was an argument that Ronald Reagan made back in the 1960s when Lyndon Johnson was first rolling out Medicare. Reagan made an entire 33 LP that went all over the country. My dad had one, talking about how someday, we'll look back and remember when men were free. If we pass Medicare, it's the beginning of the damned road to, or the road of damnation to socialism, things like this. So it's not like the Republicans have ever made a secret of the fact that they don't think that the government should have anything to do with people getting well. But it seems like this war on American health care has just gone on steroids, or is this just the normal pushback?
I think it is on steroids. I think that we're seeing policy driven by ideology, not evidence. And again, it's one of the things that we want to try to do with Tarbell is to help people understand what is evidence-based policy. This is exactly as you described. There are a lot of people who just do not think that the government has any role in helping people to get the care that they need. Rand Paul certainly is one of them. As a libertarian, he thinks that there should be no role of the federal government and let the free market do what the free market does. It just simply does not work, however, in healthcare, and there's abundant evidence, years and decades of evidence, that the so-called free market doesn't work. We've got a classic case of market failure. And coming out of the insurance industry, I know that up close and personal. I saw how the insurance companies operate, how they are in it to make money and not cover people who really need care if they can avoid it at all, not to pay claims. So it is it's a system that just has failed us for many, many years. It cannot be sustained, but there are those who just wish it to be so.
Are there like golden handcuffs? I mean, it's why is it that this industry has not spawned hundreds of whistleblowers like you? You seem like a lone voice in the wilderness. Maybe I'm misunderstanding, but it seems to me that a lot of the people who, I mean, you were an executive vice president of one of these big insurance companies. It seems like anybody in that kind of a position probably is unwilling to give up a 6 or even 7-figure annual salary and all the benefits associated with it in exchange for being a whistleblower and living a normal middle-class life.
Oh, it's exactly the case. There are a lot of people who know the system as I know it, who know the problems that are caused by our private system of private insurance, but they do make a lot of money. They have to sign forms that essentially gags them, and they are bought by money, by bonuses, by raises, by stock options, and people are afraid to walk away from that, regardless of what your income is. Many of us get on a hamster wheel, and it's hard to get off. We buy things we don't need. We take mortgages that are too big for us, and so we become enslaved to those who give us sign our paychecks, and it's extraordinarily difficult. And people are just also afraid. They're afraid of retaliation. They're afraid of not being able to work again. I knew that would likely happen to me, that I would never get another corporate job. I was fine with that, but a lot of people are not. They're just too concerned about their own well-being and put that first.
Yeah, it's truly remarkable. How do you, we have a little less than a minute left, Wendell. We're talking with Wendell Potter, tarbill.org, 30 seconds, in fact. Do you think that this is going to get fixed in the near future?
I think it can be fixed, but I want to do my part. I think, and the reason I'm doing tarbill.org is to help people have the information that they need so that they can understand what is true. In my old job, I used to participate and help create propaganda campaigns. People are confused about our healthcare system. We want to connect the dots with people to show them what can be done. We're all about solutions journalism, too. We'll be focusing on how the system can be fixed. We'll be helping people understand what Bernie Sanders' Medicare for All bill is all about. And so it takes that kind of work and people like us at Tarbell to make a change. And we want to help people understand how they can make a difference as well, too.
There you go. Wendell Potter, tarbill.org is the website. Thank you, Wendell.
Thank you, Tom.
Great talking with you. We'll be back.